And welcome again to Cottage Talk. This is another episode of The View from the Hammersmith end, and it's on Fulham's 2-2 draw against Liverpool. Alex and Matt were there, and hopefully Kamal will be joining us soon, and we'll have a really good chat about this. I look forward to getting their view. Obviously, we're going to talk about Harrison Reed's goal, but there's a lot more to talk about besides just that. Very much a lot to talk about. I also want to mention that after this episode is over, the podcast version will be strictly on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. So please do subscribe on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. Love to get you to join us on the Patreon page. Okay, guys, let's not waste any time. Hopefully, like I said, Kamal will be joining us soon. Let's go real quick to opening thoughts. Alex, I'll go to you. What do you make of that? Just give me your opening thoughts of what you watched at Craven Cottage yesterday.
A pretty epic encounter. I mean, we've been treated to a few great games this season. Man City stands out, obviously, for sheer entertainment, but this was right up there, and it was sheer entertainment and some payoff at the end. So, just an epic game. And off the back of what's been a glorious one, that's seeing Matt travel all the way to Canada to celebrate.
I should talk about that. You're right.
Yeah. So I just think, a great point. It felt like a win. And really, really good.
Right. We were talking about that before we went live. Matt, you said in some ways it does feel like a win, especially when it comes. If it happens in reverse and Fulham give up the goal, I don't think you're feeling this way. So it's just a great match, and again, we've seen some wonderful matches. I'll actually pose this question that I asked Tony. You've seen some wonderful goals at Craven Cottage, right? Where does this rank in the goals? Like we could talk about Berbatov, Mitrovic's goal, maybe Clint Dempsey. Where does this Harrison Reed goal match go in that?
So, apart from us, it's just lovely to be on the podcast. The last time we were on the podcast was after the Nottingham Forest win, which was lovely to be on after a win.
Yeah.
But, we were working with pretty poor material. That is not the case this evening, which is great.
Not at all.
Fewer points, much more entertainment. There's definitely some recency bias in play here. So, of the epic moments in recent Fulham history, obviously the Clint Dempsey chip, I think, stands on alone.
Yeah.
Context, it being the goal that took us through against Juventus, and it being Juventus and all their World Cup winners, it was just absolutely glorious and perfect. The Harry Wilson winner against Brentford, the Mitrovic 7th goal against Luton, which was obviously just gluttonous but perfect. It was one of the most childishly euphoric moments because there wasn't really tension. There was just great relief and release in that goal.
Right.
I'd put Dennis Adoy's header in the playoff semi-final in there as well, and then
against Derby County,
against Derby, and then the Kearney 93rd minute equaliser against Leeds in the Championship run as well, when we'd battered them all game after a Tim Ream own goal. This one benefits a lot from, yes, a bit of recency bias, but the fact that it was Harrison Reed, it's just, when he's lining it up, everyone in the stadium's thinking, go on, but don't. Go on, don't. And then as soon as he hit it, he clearly made a great connection, but it reminded me of the goal that was against us, which I, was very impressive, but I hated. That was scored a few years back by David Luiz, where he took a shot from miles out for Chelsea.
I remember that, yeah.
And being in the ground, that looked like it was going miles over the bar. And then, for that one, I actually was halfway through and then it clipped the bar and went in. And you're like, oh, well done, mate. This felt like one of those. And my biggest regret is on the way to the game, I'd been thinking to myself, it's so long since I've seen an absolute worldie of a 90th minute equaliser. And the one that I had to mind was I wasn't at the game, so I don't care about either team, but the Michael Essien Chelsea against Arsenal goal. And I was thinking about that on my walk to the ground, thinking, wouldn't it be nice to see something like that?
Oh,
and I didn't tell anyone that that's what I was thinking about. And I just, I wish I had, because it really, that's as close as we'll ever get to that. It was
That's
absolutely
perfect. If you'd said it, it would never have happened. So it's probably
correct.
best that you.
Correct.
I'm glad you
That's
kept
how I
that
feel
spirit.
about Florian Wirtz's goal and all the rest of it. So I'm
Okay.
more zen about it than I think many of our fan base are.
Okay, well, I'm certainly glad that you kept that to yourself, okay? Because obviously that was pretty amazing. Looks like Kamal's with us. Kamal, how you doing?
I'm good. Sorry about all the tech problems. It's very cold here in London, and both of my laptops seem to have frozen. So, apologies.
Aren't you the filmmaker? Aren't you ready for stuff like this?
I thought so. I don't know. It's, these laptops are they're trying to force you to buy new ones all the time. So.
Okay.
And mine's on their own. So just quickly, just before I forget, I asked Alex to remind me, and I know he won't, just a quick hello to Paul and Joe sit behind us.
Oh, okay.
And who are listening tonight or
That's
watching
great.
tonight, and sing some very poetic songs in the row behind us, like throughout the match.
Okay.
So
That's
hello
good.
to you guys, and we haven't forgotten you.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Kamal. Very much so. So I asked the guys, where does that goal rank for you?
Oh, I don't know. There's an old thing, and they don't do it so much, where they always used to the faithful, the Cottage faithful always used to scream, the shoot with like 10 O's in it, and our main man who did that was Boba Diop, who's a genius, and because he scored a screamer. I don't know which year. Somebody can maybe one of the Fulham Trivial Pursuit guys here with me can let me know. I think it's 2008, 2007. We scored a screamer against
Man United.
Man United, yeah.
Well, he's scored one against Chelsea, but I think the one you're thinking of is Man United.
Yeah.
Wow.
And everybody was just
flipped over as it went in.
Yeah.
So it was a 25-yarder that he ended up on his ass having kicked it.
Well, there you go. So I thought for me, this goal came because I expected him to pass it. I did not expect him to shoot. And it kind of went in like a cannonball. And, when something like that happens, usually if somebody's passing, it gives you, from the hammy end, a chance to adjust to what's about to happen. And we didn't. It just speared through the back of the goal in a split second. And it was one of those moments where you could feel the stand moving because everybody had decided to jump up and down. My mate next to me got hit in the face. So,
Russ, what do you think? Best goal you've seen?
No, Matt, I totally agree with you. When it comes to the greatest goal I've seen, it goes back to the chip. I can't get past that. Everything that was on the line, as we would say, the gumption to try something like that, the audacity to try something like that and pull it off. That's number one. But you named so many other great goals. I also want to mention a goal that I'm actually friendly with Asmir Begovic, and Berbatov scored a wonderful goal against Begovic at Craven Cottage. So I want to throw that one out there.
Yeah, the volley.
Yeah, the volley.
Yeah.
So
that was nice goal.
I've talked to him about that. He had no chance, but we talked about that.
I know we're going to go on to the game in a sec. I'm going to take some credit for all of my, Michael Essien not saying anything. About 6 weeks ago, I said on this podcast how not bored, that's too much, but how frustrated I was that all of our goals were tap-ins.
Yeah.
Since then, Harry Wilson scored like 3 or 4 from, one of them from 40 yards and a couple from 30 yards. We've now had potential goal of the season. Kearney, pinging one in from the edge of the box. We're not scoring from inside the box anymore. We're, nothing but screamers.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, everyone.
Well, give full credit to Matt Wall for calling
Thanks
that.
Very much,
because now we're seeing these insane, incredible goals, and we're seeing several of them. So I'm glad that you mentioned Kearney's goal was great as well. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. All right, guys, let's get to it.
Somebody's put a fist down on the tick attack. It's great. And also just
You got to go there. Okay.
One other thing I wanted to say is, I was thinking about the great goals that Fulham has scored.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Zoltan Gara came into my head.
Oh, yeah. No,
Thinking of performance against
Hamburg.
Juventus, I think.
Yeah,
And those,
that was up
those
there.
two. Oh, they were like,
well, I could throw in, not that it's the most wonderful goal, but I could also throw in Simon Davis's goal against Hamburg at Craven Cottage. I mean, that's still
For sure.
an amazing goal. I mean, there are many, so we can keep on going. But I just wanted to bring up this goal because we'll talk about it because again, it'll all lead up at the end of the show. I definitely want to get the mood of exactly how you guys all felt when you saw it. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry about that.
Go ahead. Of course, come on.
Was it as emotional watching that moment in the game, watching it, on the box, streaming in America?
Yes, I will explain why. Because of how upset I was and how the announcers talked about the victory for Liverpool. So basically, it was Gakpo wins it for Liverpool. Then he takes his shirt off and the whole thing. And that moment was in my brain. So for not even a minute later, for Harrison Reed to do that, if I'm being honest, Kamal, I think I laughed. Because I couldn't believe it. And then I thought to myself, you get what you deserve. I'm thinking about not just Fulham, Liverpool got what they deserved because they didn't deserve to win that. That's just my thoughts. I'll get your thoughts as we go through this. They didn't deserve to win it, in my opinion. Maybe they got what they deserved. I think Fulham deserved all 3 points, but that's not how it played out. But let's get to talking about the match. And I think it's always interesting what you guys were talking about before the match, especially when you see the starting 11. Matt, I'll go to you. I know you've watched me and Tony, so you know that Tony called me Saturday night and basically threw this idea that I think he's going to play with 3 center backs, and he got the lineup right, except for he had Berg instead of Lukic. And when I thought about it, I thought to myself, I think this could work against Liverpool. So what were you thinking when you saw it?
Look, I was very surprised to see Kearney in from the start. Not because he hasn't been, his last 2 substitute appearances that I've seen. I didn't see much of the West Ham game other than the highlights, but the impact he had against Forest, and then obviously the impact he had against Crystal Palace was so game changing. In fact, I think he got man of the match in the Forest game, despite coming on as a sub. But he's 34, 35. We have, to our great shame, I think, questioned a little bit whether or not he can hack it in the Premier League. And you're up against 2 of the most dynamic midfielders in Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in midfield. And actually, I thought Curtis Jones was the best of the 3 of them. And Alexis McAllister. That's a lot of running in there for a guy who is 34, 35 and can't get in the Scotland squad for some reason. So I was very nervous. It felt a little bit like a free hit for 2 reasons. One is we've got such a good points tally from the last 4 games that, this didn't feel like a game it would be disastrous to lose. And the second is that of the 2 games this week in the Premier League, the one on Wednesday is the one I want to win.
Yeah.
That Liverpool is and was a really important match, but the Chelsea game, if I could pick one game at home for us to win all season, it would be Chelsea. So I don't know. I felt, but we're beginning to paint a picture where Kamal is the sunny uplands optimist. Alex is the sort of balance voice of reason. I'll probably go for a draw, and it turns out I back us to lose every game.
Okay.
And,
So you're
feeling
that way.
I come out. Yeah. My pre-match prediction was 3-1 loss.
3-1 loss. Okay. Over to you, Alex. What did you make of the starting 11? What was your prediction?
I predicted 1-1.
Okay.
I was confident it was going to be a low-scoring game because, basically, Ekitike was missing for Liverpool, which was a big miss. They've lost so much of their attacking threats since last season. Obviously, Luis Diaz moving on, unfortunately what happened to Jota.
That's been a huge loss for them, honestly.
It's insane to sell Diaz in the context. So I just, and they've been stodgy all season. They were stodgy again. But I just thought there's not much attacking threat. So as soon as I saw Fulham 5 at the back, I thought there's not going to be many goals in this. And and although I was a little bit wrong, we got 4 in the end. I was very close to being right. At 93 minutes, I was spot on. So, but then again, I was spot on after 60 minutes against Man City, and look what happened there. Yeah. But I think I totally agree with Matt. It just felt good to be back in the Cottage in the new year. It felt like a free hit. Wednesday felt like the big game, and I was just looking forward to being entertained, and we certainly got that.
Okay, guys, before I go over to you, Kamal, I have another visitor joining us, and he has something he wants to share with Matt. So, Suhail.
Well. I'm here to cash in on that little bet that we had, Matt. I'm looking forward to. I said to my wife, we're going to set up a little bedroom for Matt, and then we're going to get the police to escort him to the courthouse, and he's going to show up on trial for absolute extreme pessimism.
Thing is, coming from you, it's a bit scarier.
The judge is in the house. The judge is
in the house. I've got to say, I was right, Matt. You were wrong. Let's just say that's going to be the theme of the season. Russ is going to bring that up every program. I was on I saw the first half of the game yesterday, and I'll quit after this because I love listening to you guys. I don't want to ruin it, but I saw the first half of the game, 1-0 up. I then had to go to the airport because Air Canada cancelled my flight, and I had to rush early. Missed the second half. Was getting the updates in. Swore very loudly when we went 2-1 down in the Air Canada lounge, and then jumped for joy at the 2-2. So I've got a strange feeling I didn't do the judiciary image much good, but I'm still here. Great. It was a great game, and I'm very pleased that we got the point. We should have had all 3, to be quite honest, because how on earth that goal was ever declared onside, I'll never know.
We're going to get to that. So listen, thank you for jumping on, and look forward to having you on soon. And I look forward to seeing Matt in Toronto. So
what I'm doing here, I need to use Suhail's Air Canada scheme to get me points to fly out to Toronto.
No way, Matt. I'm looking forward to seeing you in business class.
I heard
every penny paid for by you. On that note, have a great evening.
Okay.
For the rest of the show.
All right. Bye, Suhail. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So that was a little special guest. I got a message from Suhail. It's like, listen, please get me on. I want to talk to Matt. So I'm like, okay.
That's the best cameo I've seen since Harrison Reed.
There you go. There you go. That was a screamer from Suhail. So your brother shows up there, Kamal. Again, I want to go to you now. What were you thinking before the game? Were you optimistic, or were you more like Matt, a little pessimistic?
Well, it's one of the things I was thinking about was Matt's shelling out like short notice to get a business flight to Toronto. And I was really, I don't know, that kind of seemed to warm my stomach. And I was thinking, what if we make it 4 in a row? But I seem to be I mean, I'm not just saying I think we're going to, you know me, I call out Fulham when I think they're playing rubbish, or I think the manager's not got, he's being very pessimistic or evasive tactics. But from what I've seen in the last few games, I think I've seen the adventure come back.
I agree.
Back. And also, I know the Liverpool, no matter how mighty Liverpool are, we also always seem to give them a bashing recently at the Cottage. Yeah. And I thought they're very poor. I was laughing at all the Liverpool supporters in the ground. They were shamelessly kind of brave. And one of the best things, I mean, don't mean to do fast forward, just how much noise they were making when they scored, and how silent they go when they get a goal put against them. And it was one of the great moments. It was one of those matches yesterday. Yep. Even though we didn't win, we drew. It was like one of the great moments in the stands. Yep.
That's great. Come on, and I'm glad that you actually brought me to an interesting topic before we go and talk about the match. Alex, I want to get your thoughts on this because I know Matt's watched or listened to our shows that Tony and I have been talking about. One word keeps standing out, and I think you guys are seeing it in front of you, which I think is a little bit different. Now, maybe you guys will disagree with me. Resilience. I'm seeing a resilience from this team that I'm not saying that I've never seen before, but it seems just a little bit different from this group. And I want to give Marco a hell of a lot of credit because I will say, I thought he was brave with what he did in this match, throughout the match, the way he set the team up. The game plan was great. It really was. And it wasn't just that. It was the substitutions. I thought he coached his socks off. So I want to say that. But the group itself, the team itself, the key word that keeps coming up is resilience.
Absolutely. And I think, discipline as well. Yesterday, they were incredibly disciplined off the ball. Liverpool just could not find holes. Florian Wirtz is, he's supposed to be a genius. He's starting to find his form. But yesterday, he just could not find a way through the Fulham defense. So really, really well organized. I mean, this is why I've always been a bit more sympathetic to Silva, is that I feel our attitude's always been spot on. There's so many times like last season where we'd have a couple of bad results and then we'd always just get like a go to Newcastle and win. Whenever we needed a win.
That's very true. That's very true.
Like, every game those players are committed. That's how I always feel. So, and I think a lot of credit has to go to him. Another thing that's picking up in relation to this is the quality of our squad. Because if you look at how many injuries we've got and players abroad, we got the Nigerians that did really well tonight. Iwobi was absolutely brilliant, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys watched the AFCON, but Iwobi was pulling strings. Unbelievable he was tonight. And Nigeria have gone through. 3 of our best players over in the AFCON. Moon is out. Tete out. Again, if Luis Diaz was still there, I'd be terrified of Luis Diaz against Castagna. But King out, like you say. So not so many options off the bench. We absolutely stood up to Liverpool with largely a second string side. I just think we're in a really good shape because we're going to get those guys coming back from AFCON. Muniz is going to be fit again, I think, in February. That obviously we're flogging Raul, who worked his socks off again, as he always does. The attitude, the discipline, resilience to all of these things, and their testament to the team spirit Marco's kind of built there, I think. So I think credit when credit's due. He's doing a great job. Yeah, a lot of teams would be feeling sorry for themselves with the amount of missing players, and we haven't. We just
no. And Matt, I want to get your thoughts on it because actually, I think Alex brings up a good point because on the face of it, and I'm glad that Alex brought up the fact that Etikite, or I probably said it wrong, was out, and they have players out. Look how many players Fulham have out, and on the face of it, you think because I heard the confidence of some of the clubs that Fulham played with the players out in AFCON, and it's almost like it's brought this team together. Like I said, it feels a resilient group, but I'm glad that Alex brought this up, and I want to give Marco a lot of credit. I think they all have always had this because they always seem to have this ability to rebound, to be able to come back after this. But I think there's something even a little bit different going on that you guys are watching right now. There's this grit. And I want to get to it because I actually said that Fulham had to win a little or play a little ugly against Liverpool, frustrate them. That's where I was kind of going. I think that's what you kind of saw. So what do you make of this resilience that I wanted to bring up to you?
I think I agree with everything you say and that Alex says. And I think the Marco Silva's man management of the, if this isn't the wrong expression, but his man management of the squad.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. Ours is a squad which you very rarely, I may be missing some examples, but you very rarely under Marco have ever had people who've been effectively cast out, who've then thrown their toys out the pram in any public way. Who knows what happens privately? But even the Jonah Kusiasari treatment this season, I think has been as close to untenable as I've seen. Carlos Vinicius, probably in the same picture, but when they're asked to play, there is no attitudinal problem that is visible. Harrison Reed, okay, obviously it's wonderful that he does that, but him, Tom Kearney, I think Cuenca stepping up and Diop stepping up. Diop wasn't making the match day squad.
Look at that, right?
And he was fabulous, and I think the professionals, to sort of channel a bit of Roy Keane, they're just doing their job. But a lot of people in other teams and squads, you don't see that. There's already Callum Wilson at West Ham is sort of, his agent is out there trying to get a move.
Yeah.
Rats fleeing the ship, etc. There are lots of prima donnas, and I think our squad is completely bereft of prima donnas. Even Kevin, who would have a little bit of reason to be, he's like the big choice, the golden boy, big money signing. He's regularly benched, and he doesn't seem to have any problem attitudinally. Yeah. His confidence is there. He comes on, he tries to take people on, he wants the ball. Smith Rowe is a player transformed, and I think Marco's management.
You hear that, Alex? You hear that, Alex?
Yeah, I agree totally.
And I've been in that camp as well of being, we basically set fire to our money with Smith Rowe, and as I was with Muniz when Muniz first turned up, it looked like, we'd bought a complete donkey, and Marco's management of these players to get them to the point where they're all humming now, I think is fabulous. I mean, look, everybody's talking about the squad stepping up in the absence of the AFCON players. They're right. I do think the really big factor which has transformed us, and I think which we need to step back and take a moment of appreciation for his importance to our entire output, forwards and backwards, is Anthony Robertson's return has corresponded directly with the AFCON players leaving. And I think,
I agree with that.
He's been a phenomenon, and I thought he was exceptional last night.
Okay, very good. And what's interesting about this, Alex, I know that we were talking about before that you grew up as a Liverpool supporter, and I was actually talking to some people, and I think this showed the difference. And I think you guys watched this as well. When you look at how Liverpool has been built over the years, and listen, their ownership is right here in Boston, FSG Group, and the complaints I get from Liverpool supporters, and I see it all the time about FSG, is that they want them to get a superstar at every position. Do you know what Liverpool is playing like 11 strangers out there? There's no continuity. And part of that, I'm going to say it right now, there's no Jordan Henderson there. That's what Liverpool is missing. Liverpool's missing a glue. They don't have that glue. That's why I think partially it looks a little disjointed. And you look at our Fulham, there's glue everywhere. There are players playing for the shirt, playing for each other. And going back to the conversation on Kevin, watch how excited Kevin was when Harrison Reed scored. So, yes, he's bought in too.
Totally. I mean, so I absolutely agree. And again, that's got to come down a lot to Marco. One of the things that Liverpool did under Klopp quite a lot, famously, was they buy these players, Robertson, Fabinho. You wouldn't see them for 6 months. And people would think, oh, maybe the manager doesn't fancy them. And then they'd come into the team 6 months later and be the best player in the Premier League, Right. And Slot has done the opposite with the new players. Kirk has, even though he's looked completely out of his depth, he's played him week after week after week. And so I do think you can compare the way Marco has managed those players that at times haven't hit the ground. And people like Harry Wilson, who, was always marginal for the last few years. He'd always struggle because as soon as he got a run of games, he would get injured, drop out, have to work his way back in. Finally, he's got a proper run of game, and now he's pretty much been our best player this season. Yeah. So I think absolutely the attitude of the players has to be, you've got to give a lot of credit to Marco, the cohesion on the pitch, the resilience that we've mentioned, the way he manages players that are out of form, the way he does give players the shirt when they play so well week after week. Emile Smith Rowe's taken over the shirt from King. King didn't do much wrong, but Emile Smith Rowe is earning that shirt week in, week out now. And so I just feel like all of that is great management. And it's kind of like the opposite of Liverpool right now, where Slot is, despite seeing stodgy, backwards kind of, they're going in the wrong direction, and he's doing any of it. He's just doing the same thing week after week. Yeah. It looks like he's run out of ideas, and they don't have that cohesion that we just so clearly yesterday. So I think it's all absolutely true. By the way, Kamal sent me a little clip of the Nigeria players at AFCON in training. It was a lovely.
That was wonderful. Yes, I've seen that. That is wonderful.
And again, that shows the connection, right? You can see it everywhere with the players.
They were so excited. Reedy, look at Reedy. That was no. I'm glad that you mentioned it. All right, guys, let's get to talking about the first half. And what's great about having you guys on is that you guys can take me there with you. I'm just watching it. You guys would say on telly. You guys are there. So I think it's great that we could talk about the first half in this way. And Kamal, I'll go to you first, and then I'll get the thoughts of the other guys as well. Watching how Fulham were set up, how disciplined they were, and how they frustrated Liverpool. I'm talking about the beginning stages. Certainly, Alex, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm giving you the Harry Wilson goal. I'm going to let you talk about the Harry Wilson. I'm giving that to you, okay? But I want to talk about what you guys watched before the goal and how Fulham were playing, where I actually said, Kamal, that I thought the match was being played on Fulham's terms, that they were dictating the way the match was going. When you're watching Liverpool in that first half and how they looked frustrated and how they had no ideas on how to break us down, what did you see?
Let's kind of be frank about Liverpool. They had, the funny thing is that everybody was talking about Gakpo, and I was like, they're talking about Gakpo, and I realized that their best players are missing. Salah, Isak with his broken leg, Atike, all gone from the team. So, they were, and, players in AFCON, and I thought that they are in a similar position to us.
Right.
But I also found it quite unusual that, who we were talking about in the Liverpool. So I thought Gakpo was the best. For me, Gakpo was their best player. But I thought, Wirtz, who managed to score the goal, I didn't think of much. There wasn't much activity. He was a bit of a dizzy, let's say dizzy blonde, but I can get struck on that. But he was a bit dizzy. He was just like he was making the occasional contribution where if you took a look at our players, we were holding force and we were really working for the ball in the first half. And particularly, Wilson, I've said this, I don't want to spook people out, but Wilson would not, and I've had my little arguments with Alex about this, as well as Alex's statement that the Liverpool goalkeeper is the best in the world, which I think not. That can be, I hope some of the people watching this can, Alisson is definitely the best goalkeeper in the world. But I think that's the players that we have, like including Wilson. Wilson would not, the way he's been playing over the last 6 weeks, would not seem out of place in any top six club. I hate to say that. I hope I'm not. Probably Matt and Alex think I'm a fool for saying this, but I really just think he's phenomenal. And he, you give him 5 minutes on the ball, it's like 50 minutes of Wirtz on the ball. He's a brilliant player, and he works so hard. And I did say, hopefully, Alex, do you remember this? I said this through the match quite a lot. I said, why don't they bring Reed on? Because for the last 10, 15 minutes against Forest, he was so determined. Yeah. And also, I could see him on the sidelines, in this game, with his hands on his hips, watching the game take place at the other end. And when the goal went in, and that much disputed, who's saying? My brother was saying that the goal that was scored. You should have seen him. He was just somebody who looked like a film thing here. It looks like, it looked like somebody ready to go to the OK Corral and dish some bullets.
Yeah, he didn't think, talk about Wirtz's goal. He didn't think that he scored. He thought it was offside. He's already talked about that. So that's actually a good point there.
It was super close. But I was not, it's starting out so well for us. Yeah. And shades of last year, Wilson's on the ball. There was a real fight for us, and there was that little chip. We would be talking about Wilson's goal in the second half. It had gone in as much as what Reedy did.
Absolutely, absolutely. Matt and I talked about that. We'll talk about during the show what Tony Gold said. But Matt, I want to go to you because one thing that stood out for me, and actually going back to what Tony had said, his man of the match was Lukic. And I thought Lukic and Kearney were phenomenal. And I'm going to ask you this. You're watching this. Did Alexis McAllister play or am I missing him? Because he had nothing to do with this match. Nothing. Right? Yeah. I'm not, we're talking a world-class player. And, and we're talking about Wirtz, again, he had his moments. But I'm just thinking, what you guys were watching, especially in the first half, and then I'm going to go to Alex for the goal. that was all full. That was Fulham dictating what you guys were watching.
Yeah, I thought the Lukic Kearney, this is why I'm sat here and Marco's in the dugout. The Lukic Kearney pivot was not the one that any of us, I think, would have picked, even if Tony came quite close.
Yeah.
The impact that Kearney had on the back three, especially Gakpo. I agree with Kamal. I thought he was good, full of running. He looked like a guy not playing in his preferred position, but he kept going and he was pressing. He led the press quite well. I thought Liverpool's first press was actually quite good.
Okay.
But they didn't have a game. They were not expecting Kearney to play, and they didn't have an answer
Absolutely
to him.
Not. Yeah.
And Alex and I were on the walk back to the station afterwards. We were talking about how Marco had just outmaneuvered Slot. Slot couldn't. He couldn't solve the problem of Kearney. So Kearney receiving the ball, I don't think he gave it away once in the entire game. I may be wrong, but they couldn't get close enough to him. Whereas, I don't know, to my basic eye, they should have just said to Gravenberch or Soboslai, go and man mark Kearney so that cuts off that route, and then they've got to play it to someone else, and that will be easier to get the ball back. But they didn't do it.
No.
And the impact it had, to answer your question, the impact it had on Lukic, who is a very tidy player. I mean, Lukic is a one-touch and pass player. Kearney is a one-touch and pass player, and they didn't get close enough to either of them. And as a result, the first half, our tempo was fantastic. Our go forward was very good. Look, I think it was a very even game. One of the chances that came about in the first half was Gakpo going through.
Yeah, that was very close. You guys got to see that. That was close.
That was a fabulous Curtis Jones pass and a really good run by Gakpo. And despite the fact that we had 5 defenders against their one attacker, he was clean through. And if someone can pull together a back three that is as slow as Anderson, Diop, and Cuenca, then it's Wolverhampton Wanderers. But basically, once he was through, he was through.
Yeah,
that shot from our angle, it looked as though he'd spooned that about 3 meters wide, and actually the replay, it was quite close. I think Leno probably had it covered, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
It was close.
The game was a very even one.
Well, it wasn't 5 centimeters close, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, margin. Yeah, we'll give the goal then. But I thought the game was very even. I think we were all feeling quite positive. 2 reasons. One, obviously, we went in at half time 1-0 up, which is great. And 2, I think our intent and our positivity was really clear. But I wouldn't want it to be rewritten that we were the dominant force. I thought it was a very even game.
No, I'm glad that you put it that way. I don't think we were the dominant force, but I think Fulham were dictating what you guys saw. I don't think that was dominant. I'm just saying that I think it was played on Fulham's terms. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Kearney held that to happen. If one player was dictating the play on the whole pitch, it was Kearney.
That's what I'm saying, and they couldn't figure that out, and that goes back to how the way Marco said them. They weren't ready for this. They weren't ready for the formation. They were not prepared for this, and that's why that was the beauty of this, and that's what, again, part of this. And now I'll give Alex to talk about Harry Wilson's goal. And as you guys said at the beginning of the show, you guys are seeing not great goals, right, this season. A lot's changed, okay? And this is one of them, and this is a phenomenal goal. Now, at the time, it was called offside, and if you watch it back, you'll see he was clearly onside. This, I don't think, was close at all, but they had to go to VAR. They had to do the whole thing with this one. But, Alex, what did you make of the goal here?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Fantastic from Jimenez, first of all. The vision of that flick is brilliant, absolutely remarkable. And it's such a good finish. You look at those times recently where Kevin's gone through one-on-one and there's that diffidence. There was none of it. Wilson was just onto it and then bang, straight across the keeper. And, despite what Kamal thinks, Alisson is one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie in the world. Incredible shot stopper. And, there was no goalie that was going to save that. Right into the corner, arrow, left-footed. And Wilson's been doing it so much this season. And we've spoken about the great goals we've seen recently. Right. Let's not forget the one he got against Palace, which I thought definitely deserved goal of the month, and he was robbed. He didn't win goal of the month over here. But but it was just an incredible goal, in December. So yeah, we've been treated to a lot of Wilson magic this year, and that was just another example of it. So incredible confidence. I do think there's a little kind of clip of him, and I think I could be wrong. My lip reading is not necessarily the best, but I think he said, "I think I was off." And I wonder if it was a bit the same of Wirtz, where he just didn't feel the pressure because he thought I'm offside. Because the way he just stepped onto it and just went ping, it was like he was training. It was like, I'm not even worried. And so, I don't know. I mean, he's got so much class. He's capable of it anyway. But I did wonder if it was one of those where he just didn't feel any pressure in the moment because he thought maybe I'm offside here. But yeah, you're right. He wasn't.
Okay, excellent. All right, guys, quickly, and then I want to talk about the second half. Matt, over to you. What were you thinking at halftime? Did you think that Marco should just stick with what he had and then maybe make changes somewhere during the half? How did you think things were going to turn out? I had a feeling, and again, I'm just watching at home, that you would get a pretty strong response from Liverpool, which I think it did. So what were you thinking at halftime?
Honestly, most of our talk was about how disappointing Liverpool were. We'd had a really close-up view of Kirkes in particular, who I remember coming to with Bournemouth last season.
Right.
He was excellent for Bournemouth. I don't remember him taking on Castagna. Every time he sort of fronted him up and then played it back and kept it safe, and he looked like someone low on confidence. If we've got our Kevin problem, then Liverpool have a Florian Wirtz. Milos Kirkes. I would argue Ryan Gravenberch was probably the biggest disappointment of relative possibility of player to performance on the day.
Yeah.
I didn't think there were any changes that we needed to make, so it didn't feel like there was a problem. We were already in the most defensive setup we were going to go to, other than putting Berger on for Kearney. But Kearney at that point was the man of the match. So. No, it was, let's hope we can get another one.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so Liverpool come out strong, and they have the opportunity where Gakpo was clearly offside.
So
and the pressure
before the offside, can I just say it's becoming a real problem. Marco Silva has very few blind spots, but the first 20 seconds of the second half, I thought they were going to give a handball because they just pumped it long into our box. And from where we were, it was at the other end. Someone missed a header and it looked like it hit an arm of a Fulham player.
Yep.
And I thought there was going to be a penalty within 5 seconds of the kickoff. And, Sunderland nearly scored. That was their best chance of the game, was from that kickoff. We are oddly crap 20 seconds into the second half.
So I'm glad that you said that, Matt. This goes back to Scott Parker and Bournemouth exposing us. Remember that? You guys were there for that. So that's actually a great point. I don't know why they are not prepared to start the second half.
Was it? I haven't even seen a replay of that. Was it handball? I assume.
I don't think so, but I would have to rewatch that. I to be honest with you. Let's go further in. So I guess we have to talk about this, and you guys are far away, so you really didn't get a good view, but I want to get the mood at Craven Cottage. Kamal, I'll go to you. I want to talk about Wirtz's first being offside, and then, what was it, 5 minutes later? They call it a goal, and we've all seen all that has happened since then. We've seen all the talk about it. We've seen all the views of it. When I watched it live, Kamal, I thought there was no question he was offside. Now we learn about this 5 centimeter, basically distance that they allow to call it a goal. And I'm thinking, what is this crap? But I guess it's been going on for a long time. It's been going on since 2021, I guess, that they have this 5 centimeter rule. But at Craven Cottage, what was the talk when first the flag goes up for offside, but you're seeing that it's being checked?
Well, I mean, the Hamian fans, we were having quite a literate discussion about what was going on. And there was a lot of civil understanding of the ability of the referee and who was being labelled the 12th man on the pitch for Liverpool. So, but they said it in their own way. But a lot of the decisions were going against Fulham. A lot of decisions, even like the time allocated at the end of the match went from like, I think it was 7 and went on to 9 and even went beyond. And it just looked like he was giving Liverpool a break, because this is the top 4 bias that they get all the time. If you're a top 4 team or a top 6 team, which Fulham are not seen as, we're seen as easy mercy dogs. We're lambs for the slaughter. And, why they? Did you see what my brothers?
Yeah, no, it's
5 centimeters to Chikwueze when he was scored.
No, it's a it's a fair argument.
Had anybody heard of that before this?
I've never
heard of 5 centimeters.
I've never heard of this until last night. I've not heard of any of this. And
they're mitigating their incompetence. I mean, the FA won't say, nobody on the pitch or the managers will say it, but me, Matt, and Alex.
And why hasn't there been any response since then? There's been no official response. At least with the Josh King situation, there was a response pretty quickly, but there's been nothing on this. I find that fascinating. There's been nothing. And
I think they've been busy getting Jason Wilcox to fire Ruben Amorim so that the news cycle moves on and they don't have to say anything.
Yeah. Well, that actually, it's funny you say that, Matt. I think that's actually taken away this whole situation. That's basically shaded that away. No, it's mooted it. I totally agree. It's taken the pressure off because of Ruben Amorim. That's actually a good point.
In the ground, it's a weird experience with VAR. I mean, there have been three big ones I can think of this season where I've been in the ground. So Chelsea away for the Josh King thing, like the longer the VAR review went on, and that was a really long one, the more you worry that they're going to find something to give it.
That's what it seems like, yeah. The longer it goes.
And so you sort of go through the DEFCONs, and, at the start of the Harry Wilson, the flag was so quick on the Harry Wilson offside that from where, obviously we're behind the goal at the other end of the pitch. So, we can see the linesman, it curtails the celebration. And it was so quick that you assume that he's absolutely certain. And Harry Wilson didn't seem to be, he didn't do the whole, all of that. As Alex says, he sort of maybe even said, I think I was off. The longer it goes on, the more optimistic you get. And it felt bad karma to have that in the same game where, our defense seemed certain that he was off. They all collectively put their hands up.
Yep.
Wirtz didn't celebrate, but the longer it went on, the more it felt inevitable that it was going to be given.
Yeah. So can I just say 2 things on this? So one
Go
is,
ahead, Alex.
I think I lent. I can't remember if it was to my left or right. It might have been to Kamal, it might have been to Dylan. But I said just before they finally went blue and gave the goal, I said, if this is disallowed, this is really going to help Fulham. And I don't just mean because the goal was chalked off. What I mean is it took so long, and Liverpool had all the kind of
all the momentum.
Wind was in their sails. All the momentum. The wind was in their sails, and I think that 5-minute delay or whatever would have really, and it did actually. After that moment, Fulham came back into the game much more. So it really interrupted the flow of the game, and it took the wind out of Liverpool's sails. So it helped in that regard. Of course, once it gets given, that kind of gets slightly muted. The other point, and so I mean, I'm sympathetic to this. I don't obviously a 5 centimeter rule. It seems ridiculous, but I'm sympathetic to the fact that the technology is not accurate. I've always said that.
No, it's not.
When the drawn lines is so arbitrary. Especially with the arm now, this T-shirt thing. I've seen them just draw lines in the most ridiculous places. They're not consistent with it at all. And
that's the problem, Alex.
Yeah, that is the problem. And one thing I noticed in the first half, when Wilson's goal is given offside, he looks on the pitch. If you look along the lines, he looks like he's probably just on. It looks tight. Then you look at the electronic picture, their kind of VAR thing, and he's miles on. And actually, it's the same thing here, where Wirtz looks off according to the lines. Now, I'm not saying, but maybe those lines are like, we all look at the lines, but we can't assume the lines are absolutely straight across the pitch, and maybe the technology is different. So I don't know, but either the technology is really bad because it looks so different when they flip it and show what you're seeing. But I am sympathetic to them giving, and not for this goal, but just generally, at least the acknowledgement this technology is wrong. It's not accurate.
It's not.
Too, and the frame will show you different things. Right. So when was the ball? Alex, when is it released? All of this stuff.
Right. Listen, you guys are there. You get, no matter what, you get a better view than I could ever have. But I get a decent view from watching it on television. I'm just telling you, this is one that I've seen a million times, as
And
being offside, and
Yeah,
it didn't even dawn on me
yeah,
that that's the thing. I didn't even think it was close. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
I would have felt like that if I'd seen it, having seen the replays now.
Yeah.
When they do the freeze frame, you always get to your own opinion pretty quickly, and most of the time that's right.
Right.
That felt like one of those
We,
ones.
we are using the
offside.
cut of the pitch for that, right? The thing
Yeah.
you're not looking like from the side of the pitch along with you're assuming those lines are cut straight. And my point is, if they are cut straight on both the VAR things, they're wrong. do you know what I mean?
No,
So one or the other's wrong.
No,
the
I
lines of the VAR.
I get it. I get that. It's just disappointing.
Can I just add one thing here? That the
Go
official explanation post the incident was, I was just reading it just now. Thicker lines are being used to assess offsides this season. But isn't VAR, the point of VAR, pinpoint accuracy?
Yeah, but that's the point. It's not, is it?
Well, that's the problem. That's no,
thicker
it is
lines.
No,
thicker lines.
No, I mean, as Alex says, is it arbitrary? Is it, like I said, it
was just a reason to excuse the failure of the ref. That's what it was, that they produced this. They always do.
Well, then he, like I said, he took his shirt off and he had a Liverpool shirt on. Anyways, I could do that all day long. All right, let's move on, guys. And Alex, I want to go back to you because I know you enjoy talking about Harry Wilson. So I want to talk about this. And actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I got to go to Matt on this one, and there's a reason for it. Matt, I want to talk to you about Wilson hitting the crossbar. Now, we talked about this before the show, and Tony, my co-host, said, you know what? He's got to score there. He's got to score there. What do you make of this? You saw it.
Yeah, Tony, who's I respect his opinions and his views, and I enjoy his commentary. He was of the view that was a must score opportunity for Wilson. Yes. And look, I'm not saying it's an impossible one to score at all. It was a presentable, chance. But there are two defenders and a goalkeeper. He's running at full pelt, and he's got he picks up a stationary ball while he's running at full speed. His first touch is excellent. The second touch is pretty damn good, and he is 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters, let's call it, to be thematic, away from that, clipping the underside of the bar and going in. I mean, the in the ground feel was, to me, it always looked. There are some that hit the bar where you're like, that's definitely going over, or that's not a threat to goal. To me, this did feel like one where I didn't think it was going to drop in. But Van Dijk felt like he switched off entirely, which actually on the replay, maybe that isn't the case. But to me, he felt like he switched off entirely because he wasn't going to get to the ball. So he was sort of looking out for where he was going to end up in the back of the net. And looking at it back, my biggest relief is that it didn't actually end up with Van Dijk in the back of the net and then Raul tucking in the rebound, because as he would have done, because he would have been offside, but as played by Alisson. None of us would have thought of that in the ground because there's a defender on the line, but Alisson would have actually played Raul offside, so that would have been hideous. But
I thought about that.
I thought it was an okay chance, but look, the best chances of the game were the two Liverpool ones, which were the McAllister header against the bar, which you've got to score that. That was unforgivably bad. That was Castagna against Crystal Palace bad, and then the Gakpo goal, which he literally couldn't miss from a yard. So
let's go there. And Alex, I'll let you talk about this. Again, you guys are far away, but this had to have been, just a mood, because again, we get to stoppage time and they score this. It's all the way on the other side. And what was your reaction? What was the reaction in the Hammersmith end? Then we'll talk about the good stuff after that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously disappointing. Quite a lot of the hammy end had left, I've got to say, including our friend Dylan, who we sat next to, disappeared before 2 minutes before injury time. Kamal was about to leave as well. I had to talk him into staying. And so so a lot of people had left.
Can I just say for Dylan, Dylan has left. Dylan left the Brentford game last season at 1-0 Brentford in the 90th minute.
Oh my Lord!
And then he left this game at 1-1, which I mean, Dylan.
Yeah.
Learn your
Okay,
lessons,
okay,
man.
okay. You can't do this.
You can't do that. Exactly.
No.
So I've got to admit, it was one of those where it already, like, some of the energy had been sucked out of the Hammersmith end a little bit because people were leaving. And obviously it was, hugely disappointing for those that remained. But because of exactly what Matt said at the start, this did feel like a free hit. It didn't feel like the end of the world. It's only 1 point. We're coming off the back of a great run. We played really well regardless. It felt like a bit of robbery, but it didn't feel like the end of the world. What I would say about it is, and I've seen it back, and I was like, that ball, yes, it's in the corridor of uncertainty, but I feel like somebody should have done something there. And I wasn't sure at the time, because obviously we're right down the other end, and I wasn't sure whether maybe Leno should have come or whether a defender's missed it. In hindsight, I think Anderson goes with his wrong foot, and it's Anderson's mistake. That's what I think.
I agree.
Okay.
But I'm not picking on Tony because he's right and I'm wrong, I'm sure. But if you look at the build up to that goal, the reason that Robinson is tucked in, is because Virgil van Dijk is up front for reasons that are a little bit beyond me. I can't remember whether there'd been a corner, but Van Dijk is. So Liverpool have 4 people in the box, and so Cuenca has, I think, Joboslai, or whoever it is, and Robinson has to tuck in to mark Van Dijk, and then Gakpo is the guy who actually plays it across the pitch and then goes and joins in the players. So Robinson is tucked in doing a central defender's job, and we could see he was knackered. He's then the guy who's also, he needs Kevin to go out wide to cut off the pass to Frimpong. Kevin doesn't do that. It's not particularly Kevin's fault, but Robinson gets to Frimpong at like a second too late, and obviously it's crucial. Yeah. But if he'd been out there before and the cross had come in and Van Dijk has a free header, that's a bigger problem.
Sure. Yeah.
And the reality is this felt as bad, and Anderson's miss of that near post ball was as bad as, I forget the Burnley defender's name for the Smith Rowe corner, where actually he's unchallenged. It's a left foot volley away, and thank you very much, good night, 1-1, or maybe even a Harrison Reed winner. Imagine. But I think, I'm afraid this is entirely Anderson's fault, who was otherwise excellent. I don't think Robinson should get the blame for this.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm glad that we can have a discussion on this. All right, enough talking about all that stuff. The only thing that I will say is that you guys got to watch the Liverpool supporters that were in the away end, and of course throughout the ground, right? Because they were there. Probably in the Hammersmith end too.
Yeah, quite a few of them left, by the way. So when they scored, a lot of them got up, having seen their team win, and then walked out. A few of them waving to other ones in the ground, sort of going,
great. That makes
sense. So I
sense.
hope they got stuck in the bad people traffic getting out of the stand long enough to enjoy the Hammersmith end erupting.
That makes it even better, Matt. That's excellent. So let's talk about it. Now, what's interesting, I've watched and listened to a lot of comments on this, and I said this on the post-match show, that I think part of this is a little of trying to make excuses for what happened with how Liverpool defended this. Well, they thought that this was going to be a long throw. I kept hearing this. It was going to be a long throw, so they're all in the box, blah, 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 blah. And that's the reason why he had all that space for Harrison Reed. Okay, whatever. So the one thing about this, and I want to get a reaction from all three of you. I'll go to you first, Alex. So Matt already said this to me before the show, that he felt, in the ground, that it looked like it wasn't going to go in. What were you thinking? And then I'll go to Matt and Kamal too.
So I've got to admit, it was one of those moments where I saw everything that was going to happen before it happened. So as soon as Kevin started to lay it off to Reed, I saw the goal in my head before it happened. It was like I was so locked into the moment, I could see it unfolding. Now, obviously, since I've seen it back on TV, and it is incredible the space he's given. You never see that in the Premier League. I think I don't know who Joe Gomez is marking, but there's a Fulham player. It might be Akusisari, and he makes a run away, and so Gomez, who's the closest player in the box, it was Berger, was it? He then just follows him, which means that you just never get that much space, and it just felt unnatural how much time he had watching it in the ground. It was like the whole ground had just opened up for Harrison Reed to hammer it in the top corner. So I honestly could see it happening before he even got the ball, let alone before it left his foot. The other thing that was interesting about it is, for once, I think the referee did Fulham a little bit of a favour, because he's standing directly between the ball and Virgil van Dijk. And I don't think Van Dijk sees Harrison Reed there. He sees the ball goes backwards. And I think he's just literally obscured, and he doesn't move towards the ball as a result. He
That's
doesn't know what's going on. And so, but I honestly saw it all before it unfolded. But I will say that the power of that shot in the ground, and maybe because because I'd seen it all in my head, it was just like a lightning bolt. And was that crossbar or post? We don't know, because it was absolutely both. It could not be more postage stamp. Absolute ping. Yeah. And I don't think I've seen it back on TV. Obviously, whenever you see it live, it's always going to be a different feeling. Yeah. It is a goal that I feel the telly does not do it justice, in my view. Yeah, when I saw that live, I literally was like, it was just an incredible. There was no way on earth anybody in the world, you could put 4 goalies in there and told them what's going, they still wouldn't have saved it. It was such a brilliant strike. Yeah. It was. And I loved Harrison Reed's reaction to it as well, and all the players. I mean, the love you could see from all the players.
It was great.
Joy for him. It was remarkable. So quite a moment.
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, I think I said at the beginning of the show, I was laughing because I just couldn't believe it. It was just like, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Matt, you've already talked to me a little bit about it. Again, similar situation. It's like, from your perspective, it looked like it might not go in, but then when it does, what is your reaction?
Yeah, and look, I think one of the things to add, it was an interesting piece of, I hadn't thought about it as clearly as Jamie Carragher on the Sky coverage afterwards was saying how actually by going for the short throw, we're really brave. So, there's 20 seconds of play left and you've got a throw in and you've got your guy who can take sort of a long throw. I mean, the reality is Anthony Robinson's throws, we're getting, weaker and weaker because he was out on his feet.
Yeah.
To not take a long throw there when we've been taking long throws for most of the game is in part what does for Liverpool. That they bring on the defender, go into the Alamo, just get anyone to head it clear, to then give it to Kevin. And Kevin, for a little, for a couple of beats there, he's like, I might take him on.
Right.
And so that sort of changed everything. And everyone was like, is Kevin going to, their defense stopped looking at who they're marking. I think by that time, everyone had forgotten that Harrison Reed existed, other than Kevin. And to Alex's point, it was, the time and space was, I mean, it was like being back in the Championship. You never see that from a Premier League team, having a player given that much time. But it's one thing having the opportunity. It's another thing being able to hit it with such perfection and accuracy. And, as you could see on the telly and in the ground, lots of it was the context of who it was who had scored it. We love him dearly, but if that had been Alex Iwobi who'd scored that goal, it would have been, great. But sorry, obviously if he'd been playing, but it would have been great. But we sort of, we kind of expect that thing from you. Right. It was part of the joy of it was, we're in retro week here. We just had Kearney, get a point for us against Palace,
and now it's Harrison Reed. And
all we need really is a Anthony Robinson winner against Chelsea.
I'm all for it. I'm calling it now. I'm all for it. He can't score, so I'm calling. That's awesome. That is great. Come on, you give it to me.
Do you know the song? Tony Khan went to town in the Ford Fiesta. Do you know the song?
I do.
Can you finish it off?
I can't finish it off. I can't hear half the stuff.
Brought us back a centre mid, a Ginger Iniesta.
Yeah. So the whole of the Honey End started singing that together. I swear, 10,000 people or 8,000 people all singing that song. And I think Marco's been listening to me, or the players have been listening to Cottage Talk, and my constant griping about tiki-taka. What people don't realise is people see Fulham as the crossing team. And I remember people like Hale, Anthony Robinson.
See, it really is down to Kamal's talking on Cottage Talk. This is what's changing everything.
Turns out Kamal's the great manager, not Marco.
Yeah, it's really
listen to me, Allison. Listen to me, man. I'll make you better.
Okay.
So, but I mean, the one thing is, it was mad when that ball came out to read it. I think there were like 5 Fulham players. Yep. In the box waiting for a cross. That's and nobody expected that. It was almost sociopathic, his effort there. Yeah. It was like something you would never expect somebody on a pitch to do. Yeah, and I had Alex. Do you remember? You're probably going to say you forget this. I was saying all the way through, they should bring Reed on.
You were banging on about Harrison Reed for much of the game. Yeah, it's true.
He's a dynamo. He's a dynamo.
I thought the celebrations you could is that Tony? The good news is there's I thought the celebration showed how popular Harrison Reed is, right? You know, the Anthony Robinson, who was out on his feet, went sprinting. You know, he did a sort of 100-meter sprint, you know, with a curve around with him. You know, Cuenca, Traore, all these players that aren't necessarily, you know, they also aren't the guys who share the limelight as much. You know, they were all there. Everyone was just so delighted for Harrison Reed. It was perfect, and the feel good factor was, you know, we bounced out of there even more than we did for the Man City game, which was, you know, euphoric, and obviously the Brentford win, which was fabulous. Last night was tipped off. There was there's an In the Know account that some of the listeners may know, a guy called Francis, who I'm sure isn't called Francis.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, Francis. So Francis was the guy who had the solid inside line on Kevin the whole way through, and you know, he did feel like someone who was pretty well informed on a few things that came to pass. And he yesterday.
What's Francis saying?
Francis has said that the Wilson contract is pretty much tied up and done now. So it will get announced towards the end of January, but that Wilson will be staying. So that's great news.
Okay, that's great news.
By the way, it was Kevin's birthday yesterday. By the way,
yeah, it was Kevin's birthday. I have to mention, guys, if it's okay with you, Mr. Gold would like to join you guys sometime. He's already mentioned that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. What? Okay, I know, Tony. I know you're listening, so it's a go. We're gonna get you on with View from the Hammersmith, and I definitely wanted to get you on.
We need some passion. Some gold passion.
No, he'll bring it. So that's good. All right, guys.
Can I just one last thing very quickly?
What?
Did you listen to what Marco said after the match about Harrison Reed?
He
goes, no, I did not expect that. No, I just put him on to hold the line. I really did not expect that. But yes, I was very happy. Say that.
That was a good Marco impression there. Come on, that was
really good. I'm doing an impression of you as well, but
don't do that.
Save that for offline.
Whoa.
We need to do man of the match, and Russ needs to wrap up.
I kind of do. But, you know, and I'm telling you, Kamal, it can't be the team. Please get off the fence. All right. I'm going to you last. Alex, man of the match. I went with Harry Wilson, by the way.
Yeah, good. I mean, massive shout out to Diop for his, you know, fantastic performance. Massive shout out to Tom Kearney, controlled the game, absolutely fantastic. Okay. But like you, the Welsh wonder, Harry Wilson deserves man of the match.
Hands down. That's mine. Matt?
I like Tony's shout of Sasha Lukic.
Yes, that's a good one.
But I'm going to go Anthony Robinson, who I thought was just phenomenal going forwards and backwards. You know, he passed the game to Raul for the chance that led to Harry Wilson's chip. I thought Robinson was phenomenal again.
Okay, excellent. Kamal, it's all
You're
on
all crazy. Come on. Look, there's only one man of the match, and if I could, I'd give it to Alisson for being such a great goalkeeper.
Are you going to Harrison Reed? You're going to Harrison Reed?
There's only one person that what people were talking about.
Ginger Iniesta?
And that's it. Ginga Iniesta. That's it.
Okay. I like it. Good show. Great show as always, guys. I've really enjoyed it. Just so you know, as we're about to finish up, we've got a live audience of 207 people. So a lot of people getting to listen to and watch, actually, in this case, View from the Hammersmith. And great to do this after a match like this. It's even better. But I do have to wrap up this show. For Alex, Matt, and Kamal, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.